Ni hao, everyone. How are you? This is Shengdu Town under Shexian County of Huangshan City in Anhui Province. It's a lovely sunny day. This sign shows this street as a food street, featuring dishes like the carp soup with tofu, steamed coulter, stinky perch in soy sauce, guanyin tofu, tofu made of a kind of herbal leaves, fermented hairy tofu, steamed rice pies, and the pan-fried dumplings. The day before was very humid and muggy. It felt like the precursor of the typical plum rain spell that haunts the middle and lower reaches of the Yangtze River every year. The plum rain usually begins in early June and lasts for a couple of weeks, usually about a month. It is when the plums are ripe, thus the name. But nobody likes it because the weather is always muggy and humid, and things in the house easily get moldy. Or in Chinese language, mold and plum read the same. Of course, the plum rain sounds much better than the moldy rain. Thanks to the thunderstorm last night that drove away the humid and warm air, people can enjoy a pleasant sunny day today. Today we're going to see about the fruits in season. The yellow ones you're seeing here, it's an oval, pear-shaped fruit, but smaller. The ripe ones taste sweet to a little bit acid. It is succulent and tangy. Its tree is an evergreen shrub, and its leaves can be made into herbal tea. In a Chinese drugstore, you can find the syrup made of it, which is said to be able to alleviate the bronchitic cough, eliminate phlegm, and nourish the lung. The name of this fruit in Japanese is called biba, and in Chinese, 枇杷. This is a town of a registered population of about 23,000. There are a dozen villagers under its jurisdiction, among which 3 villagers are specialized in the cultivation of loquats. This is an authorized spot for street vending. It's located by the main commercial street in the town. Within Kui is also a tourist pier for boating along the Xinanjiang River. We're looking around here. Actually, we bought some pipa first here before we decided to go to one of the villagers specialized in pipa. From this side on to the right, the pipa is sorted in size from smaller to bigger. And the far side over there has 2 baskets of the pipa of a different cultivar. It's white both outside and inside. Also the most expensive variety. 30 yuan for 500 grams. That is like $4 for a pound. We ended up buying a little more than 2 kilograms of the cheapest variety. Only a quarter of the most expensive. It's cheaper just because of the size, not for the quality. I paid the man on WeChat, the all-purpose social media in China, and found by the account name that the receiving account was not this man's. Instead, it was his child's, which is very common with a lot of street vendors who are in old age and don't know very well how to set up accounts to receive the payments. I was teasing with the man about that, and he quickly explained that he actually squared the accounts with his child every day after the business. So he still gets paid in the end of the day according to how much he sells. If that's the case, it's good for him. However, in Chinese practice, there's a tacit agreement within the family between parents and children. In that relationship, children are expected to be deferential and dutiful to their parents. on the premise that the parents do their best to support their children, both financially and physically. We did it initially, but later decided to drive for about 20 minutes to see one of the villagers specialized in loquats. On the way, we see a lot of the fruits. This river here is the Xinanjiang River, the main river that runs across this town. After about 20-minute drive, we got here to this village from the town center. The name of the village is Miantan. This building here is the community service center under the party of this village. Across China, be it in a city or in a village, the economy, both macro and micro, is organized by the government under the leadership of the Communist Party of China. Although nominally there are a lot of private entities, but as a matter of fact, nothing can be initiated and approved without the government. Let alone many private companies are private just in name, since those are endorsed and funded by or affiliated to the government. As things stand in China, nothing private can fly unimpeded just as private when push comes to shove. So in China, people in general feel indebted to the government, as the latter has the prior eating out of its hand, which is nothing new if you really look at Chinese history. Believe it or not, people in this land have never borne any enough great matter, or a spot of bother, to think between the power and the people, the regime and the country, the party and the government, other than the mere being or some interests. If you don't rack your brain, then someone will rack your body and soul. That's why the masses in this land have had to work hard. This village called Miantan is one of the three villages in this area that produce massively the loquats. The other two villages are called Zhangtan and Yuetan because each village ends in its name with the character Tan, which is usually used to refer to a poor. The loquats produced in this area are collectively known as triple Tan loquats. Miantan village today consists of 6 sub-villages, 22 village groups, which comes down to 644 households, with the registered population of 2,051. The local loquats were recorded in a document filed in the year 1171 in Song Dynasty. There are a few other accounts made in the time of the Republic of China before 1949. Then in the year 1978, 2 years after the Cultural Revolution, the production of the loquats here was quickly restored. The sight of this ambulance reminds me of an incident that happened in my village that I would like to share with you. Last week, I noticed an ambulance come into the village in composure, but out in hail. It turned out that a lady at the age of 65 died shortly after she suffered cerebral hemorrhage. That was immediately caused by an onrush of the blood pressure when she drew a card she wanted in a poker card game like a rummy with her other peers in the village in the end of the intense tea season of spring, as it suggests. Mahjong and card games are what people like to do for some kicks. Just don't abuse it. Here we are seeing some villagers street vending the loquats. But there are way more sellers than buyers. This is not just what we found out there. They told us so, actually. This is another proof of sluggish tourism and economy in general. The more is pity, the man said the unfavorable climate, being too cold and too dry throughout winter and spring, has heavily affected the output of the loquats, which of course pushed the price of the loquats high. This is the double whammy to the local villagers there, who already suffered from the low yield of tea on the reason of the poor climate, as they said. I would say the creativity and the productivity of the vast Chinese peasants has been stupendly wasted, for they have been kept in a closed environment with limited access to education and information for too long. The locals also said usually they can sell either here to the tourists or to the resellers from Chengdu town. But this time the sale here is difficult to the tourists, as there are not many tourists, and they are not quite willing to buy for those who do come. While in the same time the resellers in the town can't help much in bringing up their revenues, probably for the same reason. My wife, who is able to speak the local dialect, is now schmoozing with the locals. To make us buy, one lady just now said the more expensive loquats taste better. Actually, 2 years ago, my wife bought quite so much from a farmer in a nearby village called Zhangtan, who came as a recommendation of her friends. We then drove to the farmer's home, and we bought at different times, but something altogether like 60 or 70 pounds, both for ourselves and on behalf of our friends. But later, when we requested more, the thing took an unpleasant turn. The lady of the family on the phone started to grumble over the price she gave us, saying it was too low, but of course it was something we both agreed on. Not wanting to be in the feeling of having taken advantage of the lady and her family, we just stopped buying any more from her. Inevitably, this experience to us still went down as an impression. And next, I want to share what happened to us this time. Although we already bought some in a town before we coming to this village, I told my wife to buy some as she saw fit before leaving. So my wife was looking at a portion of pipa in a plastic basket, which altogether weighed 3.9 jing. By the way, jing is equal to 500 grams. It's the common weight unit in China. We asked the price and were given the price per unit. That was 8 yuan per jing. In order to sell quickly, the seller promised proactively she would round down 3.9 jing to 3 jing only if we were to buy. Of course, we didn't say no to a sweetened deal. Another way to understand this is she offered us a discount of 8 yuan times 0.9 jing off. That was 7.2 yuan. Just as we were going to pay her 24 yuan, which we agreed on, according to her promise, we didn't ask for. She quibbled us into paying her 32 yuan, which means that not only did she eat her promise, but rather she was trying even to overcharge us 0.8 yuan more than the original price. Later, we asked the lady to change the container from the plastic basket to a plastic bag. She weighed, she promised, And she quibbled. You wouldn't believe it. The scheme just repeated itself again. We didn't bother to bicker. Guess what? It really happened. As we were leaving, a local old man said this in the presence of all the other folks, aloud.